Hi, everyone. Good morning and welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. This is Nick Wright. Good weekend, guys. Good football weekend.
Great weekend. Enjoyed listening to you on the call that game, man. Did a great job. It was fun.
Listening to you on that call makes me feel like I need to respond. So you flip around and I got to you and you would talk and I felt like saying, we'll take a break. We'll be right back. After everything you said. But then I got used to it and it was fun.
I
you did
missed
such
you
a
this
great
weekend,
job.
Jenna Wolfe. I missed you so much. Oh, God.
Okay, we got a great Monday show for you today. Drew Brees is now officially concerned.
Some things change, some things stay the same.
About the hand injury that forced him out of the game. Ezekiel Elliott thinks Dak is, quote, one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now, and Julio Jones earned every last penny of that new contract he just got last night, and that's where we're going to start. Little Sunday night football. Eagles taking on the Falcons. We jump right to the fourth quarter. Philly down 4. Carson Wentz gets off the improbable throw to Matt Collins. Later in the drive, Wentz with the QB sneak for the rushing touchdown. 2-point conversion good. Philly takes the 3-point lead. Falcons do not go away. It's a 4th and 3. Matt Ryan to Julio Jones, and Julio off to the races. 54 yards in for the touchdown to take the lead. Eagles, one last chance on 4th down. Wentz to Zach Ertz. But Ertz is stopped just shy of the first down, and the Falcons go on to take the win 24-20. Both teams now move to 1-1 on this season. All right, Cris Carter, let's start big and end up small. First, how did the Falcons pull off this one?
Well, the Eagles made too many mistakes. This game reminded me of one of the games that they played last year, beginning of the season, week number 1, where the Falcons lost a lot of players. Ultimately, ended up changing their destination during the regular season. But when you lose the type of, especially the wide receivers, Alshon's got a calf. Deshaun Jackson, he's got a groin. Those guys not being in the lineups, even though their backups were able to make some plays there at the end. When you don't have your front line guys, that last drive, and you're going down the field, Nelson Aguilar, Ertz are the only 2 premier receivers that you have, of your regular receivers that you have on the field. You could see, and all the mistakes that Philadelphia made earlier in the game, they couldn't recover from them. And then at the end, you talked about Julio Jones. After a very mediocre 7.5 quarters of playing football after signing the record deal, averaging $22 million a year for a wide receiver, he comes up with the big play. They make a great call. They have what you call a jailbreak screen, which is a blitz beater. They had an all-out blitz, 0 coverage, and this is one of the things that you do. If you're not going to bump Julio Jones and you have an all-out blitz, they have more people coming than what you can block. Matty Ice makes a great audible, gets him into the jailbreak screen, and Julio finishes the deal. It's basically him in a foot race against one of the safeties, and he's going to win that often. So the Falcons were able to, you don't want this week to be answering questions of, man, you guys start 0-2 after changing their defensive coordinator, changing their offensive coordinator, changing their special teams coordinator. This team is very, very fortunate after playing bad in week number 1 in Minnesota and being dominated to be able to squeak out this win at the end in their home opener, Nick.
This was almost a great win for Philadelphia in this regard. Atlanta thoroughly outplayed Philly throughout this game, but Matt Ryan made some uncharacteristic mistakes and repeated mistakes, including an interception in the end zone on 1st down on a pass he simply does not need to make.
Yeah, I would say, though, his arm got tipped. If you look at the highlight of that, I mean, it took something off the throw. And if you watch the ball, when the ball comes out of his hand, he didn't have a natural follow-through. It was like his hand opened up when someone hit the bottom of his arm.
On that one in particular, absolutely.
Yes.
This was a game that Atlanta clearly didn't trust their rushing attack, and because of that, even with a lead, they were throwing it repeatedly, and Matt Ryan kept Philly in the game. And when you saw Carson Wentz, you saw the play he completed on that second-to-last drive that they had to keep it alive and then dives for a touchdown. It's like, wow. For Philadelphia, these are the types of games that Super Bowl contenders find a way to steal. And then that 4th down play, which I didn't know was an audible, but that was a brilliant play call in the moment. Jake Matthews comes out and just annihilates Maddox, the corner. And then nobody's catching Julio Jones. You mentioned before the show he got up to 20 miles per hour on this run, and that means he wasn't at top speed for him if it were earlier in the game, because he can go faster than 20 miles per hour. And then late in the game, or after this, Philly has another chance they come up just short. But to me, the takeaway from Philly will be the atrophy of injuries, and Carson Wentz got the hell beat out of him in this football game repeatedly. He made plays despite it, but Philadelphia comes away with this game with more damage than just one loss. They come away with Wentz banged up. We don't know how many receivers they're going to have available next week. We talked about the depth of this team, Jenna, but this was a lot of damage for just one football game.
So that right there is what I want to get to. The reason I picked the Eagles to go to the Super Bowl is because of the depth, because they seem like they're the one team that can overcome, injuries week after week and still put a team out there. Last night, was it a case of they were just too riddled with injuries, or did they just not have an answer for the
Well, you
Falcons
asked me what happened. If you don't go over the injuries, then you're missing a key part to the game. Deshaun Jackson has 2 50-yard touchdowns in week number 1. Well, where was he? He was hurt. Well, Alshon Jeffries, well, where was he in the game? Look at the stat sheet. Well, where was he? Well, he was hurt. It's not an excuse. It's just an explanation of what's going to happen. They did have competent guys fill in, but they had made too many mistakes to overcome. If they don't have the depth for which you talked about and the reason why you picked them, they're not in this game. So, yes, they do have depth. They do have depth at 3 different groups. The wide receivers, they got a lot of depth. All right? The offensive line, they got a lot of depth, but their front line guys aren't playing great. And their defensive front, they have a lot of depth. So don't let one loss in Atlanta against a team that has to pull out that jailbreak screen to be able to win that game.
Right.
I wouldn't overreact to that. The depth is still there. And for Philadelphia, if you want some silver lining, these aren't season-ending injuries. If you go around the National Football League yesterday, if you thought week number 1 was bad, week number 2 was even worse. And to me, it speaks to the lack of preseason, the lack of conditioning, and then also being there talking to players they can sense. Larry Fitzgerald, Earl Thomas, guys saying, no, we're not in game shape early, so we're going to see some significant injuries in the first month of the season.
Okay, Eagles and Falcons now both 1-1 on this season. Which of these 2 teams, Nick, do you trust most moving forward?
Philadelphia with one small asterisk. To me, Philadelphia is better than Atlanta for the length of the season. Philadelphia does have more depth. I think Philadelphia has more different ways to beat you. Despite not playing well yesterday, it did take a 4th and 3 for them to lose. And then, even then, they were in position to potentially take the lead if Zach Ertz goes 1 yard deeper on his route. But they've got to find a way to protect Carson Wentz better. Carson Wentz was getting hit repeatedly. If you watch just a longer highlight package of last night, so many of those plays are broken plays where he is getting contacted and then finding a way to escape. Wentz, he got left the game briefly, and McCown came in because we had his ribs checked out. I think Philadelphia is better, but if Carson Wentz got hurt again yesterday, even though it was only briefly, and it wasn't his fault. I mean, he was not being protected throughout. So I have a concern even greater now than I did before about Wentz's health. But in totality, I trust Philadelphia more.
The way you
Atlanta.
protect Carson Wentz is you got to be able to run the ball. Even though they had 21 rush attempts, none of the running backs, 3 of them touched the ball, average more than 3 yards a touch. If your longest run is 5 yards, your quarterback's going to get brutalized. And that's what we saw in last night's game. So nice remedy, because there's only 2 ways. You can either run the ball or you can go max protection. You're not going to go max protection because your tight end might be your best receiver. So their only remedy would be able to run the ball to create some balance. Doug Peterson can't fall in. They weren't way behind in this game. You have to have some balance in the NFL. And if not, they're going to tee off on your offensive line, and the Philly line, it might be ranked by Pro Football Focus as the best line, but right now they're not playing up to that level.
All right, Eagles weren't the only team with injuries last night. Coming up, could Drew Brees' hand injury derail the Saints' season? That's next on FS1. You can always check us out on the Fox Sports channel. That's on SiriusXM. We'll be right back. Are you ready for what's ahead? You can't always predict the future, but you can game plan for it. Generations of families and businesses have harnessed the power of Pacific to help them reach their unique goals. Whether you need to save money to meet your needs, ensure your family is protected, or make sure you don't run out of money, Pacific Life has a variety of financial solutions that can help. Pacific Life counts more than half of the 100 largest U.S. companies as its clients and has been named one of the 2019 World's Most Ethical Companies by the Ethisphere Institute. Protecting what matters most to people for 150 years and counting, That's the power of Pacific. Ask a financial professional about how Pacific Life can help you game plan for your future. Or visit www.pacificlife.com. Back here, first things first, we'll get to Drew Brees' hand injury in a second. But first, a couple of highlights from yesterday. Lions, Chargers, Mike Williams laying out for the 47-yard catch.
Oh, this is a great catch here because the safety could have hit him on this one. He definitely thought he was going to get contacted in the air on that one. Great catch by Mike Williams, trying to make a comeback after having a disappointing rookie season, and the Chargers need him. Good connection for Phillip Rivers down that sideline.
Chargers had a highlight in the first quarter, that highlight, and that was about it.
Rams, Saints, Cooper Kupp. This was my play of the weekend right here. Catches it over the middle, the stiff-arming the defender, breaking a bunch of tackles, getting stopped at the 1-yard line. But what an effort by Cooper Kupp.
It was a sensational play by him. You see the refs put his hands up. It was called a touchdown, but then overturned, put back at the 1. I mean, an absolutely great play by a guy that was really missed last year once he went out with injury.
All right, Alabama, South Carolina. Najee Harris catches the pass, shoves one defender out of the way, hurdles another, then breaks the last tackle. That's a touchdown.
People wonder what five-star recruits, what do? And this kid's been sitting the bench for a couple years, sitting behind a bunch of other five-star recruits. That's what they do. Throw a big defender from South Carolina down, hurdle over another safety, and then avoid the linebacker as he gets into the end zone. I thought this was the best play of the weekend.
On 4th down, no less. Just go ahead, go do that to him. But you're right. He was a top 30 player in the nation coming out of high school. Has had to wait his turn at Alabama.
Finally, Mississippi State, Kansas State, freshman quarterback Garrett Schrader spinning, ooh, like the helicopter. Attempts to gain the first down there.
Now, this is clearly the dumbest play of maybe I've seen in a long time. And I like the fact when you do something dumb, the defense knocked his butt up in the air. Don't knock him down into the dirt. Knock him up into the air. I was shocked when I saw it.
I mean, his 4th down, he was trying to essentially hurdle 7 yards in the air.
He wasn't hurdling, he was diving.
Or diving 7 yards in the air.
I mean, why would you dive that way? Like, why would you? Listen, you have to give up, son. This is about
making
your college
it to the next
education.
play.
You're a freshman. You got a lot more football left in you.
Oh, no.
Man. All right, so the Saints-Rams game now where the Drew Brees hand quickly became the big story. Brees had to leave the game after his throwing hand was hit by Aaron Donald. Didn't look like a big hit, but it took a big toll. Brees saying afterwards, yeah, I am concerned, hoping it's not too significant. The Saints quarterback will be seeing a hand specialist in Los Angeles later today. Saints lost the game and perhaps their quarterback in the process. CC, how devastating could this be for the Saints?
Well, the Saints are in a little bit better position than most teams. I said before the season, I thought there were 2 backup quarterbacks in the league that ultimately will be starters. Jacoby Brissett with the Colts. Unfortunately, Andrew Luck calls it quits before his 30th birthday. Jacoby Brissett, they thought that too because they give him the big contract to tear up his old deal, give him the big contract that he would be making starting quarterback money. And the other one would be Teddy Bridgewater. Now, I do believe that Jacoby Brissett has a lot better arm than Teddy Bridgewater has, but the overall offense and how they run their offense, and Teddy's been there now for more than a year with Sean Payton. I got a lot of confidence in Sean Payton. And then also, out of the 60, 65 plays the offense is going to run, Teddy can be removed of some of that burden by Taysom Hill. The quarterback, the utility, the Swiss Army knife, special teams guy, fullback, slot guy, a guy they use out of the backfield, a guy they use in the Wildcat formation. So they're in a unique situation there in New Orleans. They're not like most teams. If they lose their quarterback, their season's over with. So I believe that Teddy, because Drew Brees doesn't have a great arm, he just has anticipation, timing, and he's been with Sean Payton for so long. Teddy doesn't have that big arm, but he does have the anticipation. The offense will suffer some. Drew Brees is one of the greatest that we've ever seen. But with Sean Payton, I have a little more confidence than I would going around the National Football League if any of the other starting quarterbacks are hurt.
I hope you're right about Teddy Bridgewater because I've been with you on that corner, that he is one of the best backups in the league. He got paid like he was one of the backups that would one day be a starter. My concern for Teddy is the last time he's looked like a starting quarterback in this league was 2015. Which is the last time he was a starting quarterback in this league. Obviously, in 2016, he suffered a horrific, gruesome knee injury where they thought he might lose his leg. 2017, he plays one series of football. We saw it at the very end of the year with the magical Minnesota Vikings year. He got in briefly last season, didn't play well. Got in briefly yesterday, didn't play well. And when it's been that long since you've had success, it does concern me that even though his trajectory year 1, year 2 in the NFL was, he's going to at the very least be a middle of the pack, if not above average starter, is that who he still can be? Because the Saints have, and you brought this up before the show, Jenna, almost no real experience playing without Drew Brees since he got there. Since he got there, he's missed 4 games. 2 of those were end of season. We have the 1 seed locked up. We don't need to play you. So he's only missed 2 games due to injury. Sean Payton coaching the Saints, almost no experience really without Drew Brees. Brees has more experience playing without Payton because the year Payton was suspended. And so how much will the lack of a true number 2 receiver, which the Saints were worried about last year, which was a concern for them going into this year, how much will that hurt them now that they have a far inferior quarterback? Because even if Teddy is one of the best backups in the league, Drew Brees is one of the best players in the league. And so for the Saints, who had hopes of returning to or getting back to a Super Bowl for the first time in years, of getting vindication for what they felt was stolen from them last year, this is an enormous blow, and potentially the biggest story of the season thus far is Drew Brees on a team as good as the Saints being out for potentially multiple weeks. We don't know, but they seemed pessimistic about Brees's upcoming availability, to say the very least.
Well, the Saints didn't win the game. They lost to the Rams. A little deja vu for them in the process. So once again, they were on the wrong side of a missed call. Jared Goff appears to fumble, leading to a Cam Jordan scoop and score on an 89-yard fumble return. But the refs blow the play dead, call an incompletion. You heard the whistle. The play is reviewed and ruled a fumble. But since the whistle was blown, the Saints gained possession at the spot of the recovery, negating the go-ahead touchdown. Needless to say, Cam Jordan was not happy.
I mean, I didn't even hear the whistle. I grabbed the ball 15, 20 yards down, and allegedly a whistle was blown. Clearly, I mean, a whistle was blown. Where normally you let the play happen, any referee usually tells you you let the play happen, and then you go back and review the play.
Nick, what is it with this Saints team? Why do they seem to end up in the same position?
Well, I mean, that's just bad luck, and the fact that it was against the Rams is going to make extra salt in the wound.
Sure is.
After what happened in the NFC Championship game, after how much they talked about what happened in the NFC Championship game, the league changed the rules because of it. But to me, obviously, the stakes are not nearly the same. But this is almost worse than, as from a refereeing perspective, than what happened in the NFC Championship game, because it's preventable. That we hear the retired refs who are on TV all the time say, given the fact that you now have review, ever since review's been implemented, they are coached, they are taught, err on the side of letting the play go on because we can fix it after the fact. What is not fixable is if you blow the play dead and then all of a sudden a touchdown's taken off the board. And the other reason this one is particularly egregious is I don't know anyone watching that game that didn't think this was a fumble. And if you were watching it with no sound on, you thought without question that's a fumble, a scoop, and by the way, a much faster than anticipated Cam Jordan streaking down the sideline for a touchdown. And it gets overshadowed because of Drew Brees' injury and because they ended up losing by 18 points. But this is a really, really bad mistake by the refs, and it's a preventable one if you let the play go as they say they are taught to do.
Well, I disagree with you as far as it's preventable. And the reason why is because when you're in the game, the referee is watching the action. And if he thinks it's an incompleted pass, why wouldn't he blow his whistle? And a lot of times if you don't blow your whistle in little plays like that, guys get hurt. So they blow the whistle to make sure guys stop going. You also have to realize there's typically 60,000 to 80,000 people there. So the guys don't hear the whistle and everything. But the referee's training, you can't stop the instincts of the referee so that he can think, oh, I have replay. Oh, there's no need for me to blow the whistle, when it's a natural reaction for him, if he thinks it's an incomplete pass, to blow the whistle dead, to make sure no one's going for the loose ball, to make sure no one gets hurt. So, yeah, obviously after I watched the replay, yes, of course it was a fumble. But we've had this play in the NFL for a long time. Inadvertent whistle all the time. It stops it. All the players know that. If this doesn't happen to the Saints, we're probably not reviewing it the way we are. If they don't have the play last year against the Rams, it doesn't have necessarily the attention. But we have seen this, an inadvertent whistle, an open hand. We've seen this. This was like Tom Brady with the tuck rule. So it's not the first time that we've seen this play. It's just unfortunately for the Saints and the opposition happen to be the same two teams.
So did this Saints team lose the game yesterday because of getting outplayed by the Rams, or because of the whistles and because Drew Brees was out?
I mean, how about all the above? I mean, we don't know. It's certainly, now that we know how the game ended, it looks like, okay, even if the Saints get that touchdown, they probably lose. But we don't know that. That is the single biggest play you can have in football as far as adding to your chances of winning are a defensive or a special team score. This was a defensive score when Drew Brees was already knocked out of the game. So instead of having it be 10-3, you're kicking off, you're now asking Teddy Bridgewater, pressed into action mid-game, to drive the field 87 yards, which he obviously was unable to do. And the reason, Chris, that I thought this was different than most, we thought it was incomplete, but it's a fumble, is because it wasn't an instantaneous whistle. It was Cam Jordan had picked up the ball and was already running by the time they blew their whistle. So I
think one of the other refs overruled him and said that he blew his whistle. The first whistle we thought we heard was the one late. But obviously when they came together, someone must have blown it dead. If not, they wouldn't have been able to rule it.
No. Once we all heard the whistle late. And once that happens, the best thing that can happen for the Saints is the ball where they got it. They can't say, okay, you get it 30 yards upfield.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes you see a pass and it's a lateral, but it looks like it was forward. They instantly blow the whistle, and you look on replay, damn. Like that's a big play. This one, to me, was officiating-wise worse than that. That's a Super Bowl official, by the way. It's not that it's a bad official. It's that was a really, really tough spot. And to your point, pardon me, it being Saints-Rams going against the Saints, it feels extra bad for people watching the game.
Yeah, but the Rams, they lost their star on the defense. He wasn't able to be there. Aaron Donald, he was gone most of the game. Drew Brees only played 2 series. So I'm just going to give you a couple stats. Alvin Kamara, he has 13 carries, 3.5 yards, 45 yards rushing. You think the Saints are going to win a game? He has the longest carries, 12 yards? No. Michael Thomas, he has 10 catches, 89 yards. You think they're going to win a game where he has 89 yards? No. So we can blame it on the fumble, but they didn't generate any offense after that. Drew Brees was gone most of the game. Teddy Bridgewater struggled. The offense struggled. Yes, that was a big missed call, but the Rams played totality better than the Saints did and deserved to win the game.
More than one opportunity to win it after that call. All right, coming up, another monster game for Dak Prescott. Talk some Cowboys next on First Things First. It's the 100th year of the NFL. How excited are you for this season? NFL players have been coached. Blue light from smart devices can affect your sleep. Wear blue blocker glasses in the evening for improved sleep. Sleep Number beds allow you to adjust on each side to your ideal firmness, comfort, and support. The Sleep Number 360 smart bed senses your movements and automatically adjusts to keep you sleeping comfortably through the night. With Sleep IQ technology inside the bed, it tracks how you're sleeping so you can know every morning how well you've slept that night and gain insights for your best sleep. Experience the smart, effortless comfort of the Sleep Number 360 smart bed. Find your competitive edge with proven quality sleep from $999. Sleep Number is the official sleep and wellness partner of the NFL. You'll only find Sleep Number at one of their 575 Sleep Number stores nationwide. Find the one nearest you at sleepnumber.com/cadence. Time for us to go viral. See, yesterday you were down in Baltimore to call the Cardinals-Ravens game. After the game, hopped on the gram, posted this of you and your guy, Larry Fitzgerald. How nice was the moment to see him again, catch up, talk to him, hang out on the field?
We got a lot of catches there. But the first picture I sent on the gram, I had whacked off his head.
I saw that.
This is the thing about me. They need to make these phones bigger because I got these long thumbs and they just get in the way.
Yep.
And I just tapped the picture, sliced his head off.
Well, I'm
not great on social media.
I went to call it up, and I was going to secretly go, look what he did with that picture. And then I looked up, and I said, I better not say
anything. You guys
anything.
know I don't care.
This was so good.
Yeah, I don't care. What are you going to say?
Wait, how'd you find out? Did someone tell you?
Someone
texted him and
some
said,
jerk
"Gotta make
was like, hey, Chris, you whacked his head off. Okay.
And yours. Both of your heads were cut off.
Austin hit me up. So let me fix it for you, old man. I was like, okay, yeah.
It was a fun game to watch. I always enjoy hearing you on the call. And it was good for you to be able to catch up with someone you've known 20 years? Longer?
Yeah, since he was 11.
Okay, so yeah, close to 25 years. Man, he and Kyler have a nice little combination.
Yeah, I had a little, one of those kind of fantasy weekends. I'm sitting around coaches, general managers, Ozzie Newsome's razzing me all the time, talking to the players.
And then what happened? Monday morning, back here with me.
Right back on the rock pile.
You're right, though. A lot of catches between
Didn't take y'all long this morning to let me know. Nah, this is not the football group I was hanging with this weekend.
Time for stories to start your morning, she said quickly. Sponsored by Gillette Clear Gel. Drew Brees had to leave the Saints-Rams game after he hit his throwing hand on Aaron Donald's hand during a pass rush. The Saints quarterback will see a hand specialist in Los Angeles today. See, how devastating could this injury be for the Saints?
Well, we haven't seen Drew Brees and Sean Payton not be together as far as Drew Brees being the quarterback. Sean Payton was absent when he got suspended, but this has been one of the greatest combinations that we've seen in NFL history. Why wouldn't there be some type of drop-off? He's the guy that's been in the system, the overall continuity. It's built for him. Now, I do believe they have one of the better backups. Them in Indianapolis before Luck with Jacoby Brissett, they had the best two backups in the league. I do believe Teddy will play better because Sean Payton has a whole week to game plan. Nick, you talked about Teddy hadn't played well in a while. Well, for one, he had a horrific, one of the worst knee injuries we've seen of any quarterback. And then we haven't seen a coach game plan Teddy's skills with the offensive skills going against that defense. And that's what we're going to have this week. And the Saints, over the next couple weeks, they're going to need Teddy to play at his best.
At Seattle, home for Dallas the next two games. Without Drew Brees, they'll be underdogs in both of those games, I'd imagine. And your point on Teddy, yeah, the last time he was the starter going into a game was before the knee injury, so he hasn't had the week of prep. He's thrown less than 50 total passes since that knee injury. The Saints do, I think, I agree they have a quality backup, but so much of what they do is predicated on Drew Brees being exceptional. If this is more than a couple-week injury, this is devastating, not just for their Super Bowl hopes, but for their playoff chances.
All right, moving on to the Patriots and Dolphins. After much speculation about whether Antonio Brown would play yesterday, there he was, making his season debut. AB finishing with 4 catches for 56 yards and a touchdown. New England wins, I'd say pretty handily, 43-0. CeCe, how did AB look in his first game with the Pats?
He looked pretty good. And I talked to someone really close to him and someone who's very familiar with the New England organization. We have to remember, he's not in shape. Remember when he burned his feet in the cryotherapy, he wasn't able to practice for a long time. So his weight's not where he wants to be, and he's not in that elite condition that we're used to seeing. They gave him a sample size of the playbook. He was only running a few routes, ran a stop, ran a quick out, and ran a fade from the slot. Those are easy for Tom Brady. He runs a little shallow, a deep in there, too. So those are easy for Tom Brady to be able to time up. Everything is about him learning the offense, and they're trying to get him up to speed. But like I told you guys last week, if he's on New England's roster, they're going to use him. And the first week, it worked. But it is Bill Belichick's word, it is truly day to day.
And yesterday, he was the most targeted receiver by a decent margin. They used him heavily on that first drive almost. It felt like to let the world and the Dolphins know, yeah, he's another one of our weapons. It's tough right now to evaluate any team that plays Miami because they do appear to be one of the worst, as far as talent-wise, teams we've seen in the NFL in a very long time. But 43-0 is 43-0, and Antonio Brown maybe got away a little push-off there, was highly productive instantly.
I'm going to see if the NFL do me a solid, and let's get Miami to play against St. Thomas Aquinas, #1 ranked team in high school from Fort Lauderdale. The Dolphins can play a home game.
We're skipping the college ranks going down to high school.
Because I've been seeing a lot of football. That Dolphins team's one of the worst all time.
Chiefs and Raiders now. Patrick Mahomes threw for 278 yards and 4 touchdowns. in the second quarter alone. Scored nothing in the first, scored nothing in the third, scored nothing in the fourth, and the Chiefs win easily, 28-10. Nick, how impressive was that second quarter performance for Mahomes?
I mean, statistically, it's as good as any quarterback has ever played in the history of the league. And they were down 10-0. The Raiders were playing well. The Raiders had a challenge to play they didn't get, and then all of a sudden, the floodgates opened. The 4 touchdown passes he threw in that quarter were 44, 42, 27, and 39 yards. And then much like week 1, the Chiefs had the game won at halftime and then essentially coasted on home. It was an absolute unbelievable explosion without Tyreek Hill. All of a sudden, Demarcus Robinson, 6 for $170 and a couple touchdowns. Chiefs coming up with new weapons each week.
We need to talk about Andy Reid more, because if you look at the play design, I know Patty Mahomes is special. He's a combination between Dan Marino and Brett Favre. When I watched yesterday, those are the only guys that I've seen be able to get on those types of hot streaks and be able to vary how they're going to throw the ball. Let me go across my body, cross the field. Let me throw a laser low across the middle. Let me get one outside, put a little loft on it down the sideline to a running back or a tight end. I mean, he's exceptional throwing the ball. But Andy Reid puts them in tremendous position, not only from – this is the fastest team I've ever seen in the NFL. We've had a lot of teams score points, but I've never seen one as fast as the Chiefs are and the number of guys they have that can run. So Andy Reid needs to get a lot of credit for what they're doing.
All right, moving on. Cardinals and Ravens. CC calling the game for us on Fox. Lamar Jackson did not disappoint in his much-anticipated matchup with this year's first overall pick in Kyler Murray. Lamar finished 24 of 37, 272 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also added 120 rushing yards on 16 carries. Ravens get the win 23-17. They're now 2-0, undefeated on the year so far. CC, how good did Lamar look in person?
Well, I got to give the Baltimore Ravens a lot of credit, because quietly they're one of the really good organizations from top to bottom. Bisciotti, the owner, he has given the coach full control from a front office standpoint. We know they've transitioned from Ozzie Newsome being the general manager, but he's still there in the building. They still got the same people making the decisions, but they've decided when they drafted him, they were going to support him. They were going to put the necessary things around him. They went out and got 3 quality tight ends. This year, they get Marquise Brown from Oklahoma in the first round. Man. So they're going to support him. They don't want him to be a running quarterback, but they're not going to tell him not to be a running quarterback. He has spent so much time this offseason working on his drops, working on his throws, trying to be more accurate. And you could see it in practice. You could see the overall confidence in him. I talked to him on Friday for a long time. Then I watched him practice on Friday and then met with him again yesterday before the game. He is a totally different player than he was last year. And really, the sky is the limit. Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator, he told me, because he's coached a couple dual-threat quarterbacks that people like to compare Lamar to, that being Tyrod Taylor and Colin Kaepernick. But it was fairly clear in his praise of Lamar that this kid is a lot better and has more throwing power than the rest of them. We know the other 2 can't run like him, but the throwing aspect of was a little shocking to me, and it's starting to play out in the game. If you put 8 in the box, they're going to throw the ball over your head. You play zero coverage, they're going to throw it over your head. And if you crash your defensive ends to try to take away their running game, their physical attack, he's going to pull it out, and he's not afraid to run. So spectacular play by him. I was able to see it, but more importantly, being able to talk to him throughout the weekend, you can see he thinks like a quarterback, even though his skill set's a little bit different, but he thinks just like a quarterback, and he wants to be a pocket passer and is committed to doing the things to make him one.
I know you have to adjust for competition, and I know it's been 2 weeks. Through 2 weeks, he's been, so far this year, the best player in the league. Week 1, he did something that had only been done 3 other times in NFL history. Week 2, he did something, see, you know, there's one of my favorite terms, 1 of 1 NFL history. 250 passing, 120 rushing. Has never been done. The Ravens had 440 yards of offense. He had 390 of them. He was their offense. He was spectacular in all aspects. And I obviously didn't have the front row seat that Cris did, but from 1,000 miles away, or however long Baltimore is, I guess, well, less than 1,000 miles, a couple hundred miles away, sitting on my couch in New York, you could say, the jump he has made, at least he appears to have made, from where he was as a passer.
What do you mean appear? He played in 2 games. Why?
What do you mean?
What have you seen that you ain't believe in?
No. Oh, I just think two games into the season are two. I'm not going to anoint anyone 2 games into the year.
Man, they were inside the 5-yard line, backed up. First play, straight drop back.
I couldn't believe they called the play. Straight drop back. Because that was last year. You know that's a run. It's either Lamar running or it's Gus, the running back, Gus Edwards running.
Yes.
They trust him, and they should. I mean, he appears to have skipped a couple steps from wherever he was at year 1, which, by the way, the numbers would say we maybe slightly underrated him as a passer, but he obviously had a long way to go as a passer. His most deadly weapon were his legs, and his legs opened up passing lanes. To right now, with him throwing the ball like this, he's incredibly difficult to defend. Because he's such a deadly runner, you have to dedicate one of your 11 defenders to worrying about him. Now, all of a sudden, you're playing shorthanded. And so I've been incredibly impressed. Mark Andrews is a guy I had no idea was going to explode like this.
Oh, he's nice, man, from Oklahoma.
Man, another guy from Oklahoma. And you mentioned Hollywood Brown. That Hollywood Brown is not yet up to full speed.
No, he's practicing one day a
literally.
week. Him and Lamar are not in sync because he's not practicing.
Yep.
On 3rd down with the game on the line, what do? They go to a rookie receiver with the second-year quarterback, and it lets you know, outside of backing up in the end zone, I'm getting ready to throw the ball on 3rd and short to a rookie receiver. They got a lot of confidence in their quarterback.
And the question was whether he could do it when all else failed, when everything was breaking down around him. Would he stay? Would he have the wherewithal to make that his number 1 option? And you saw yesterday he's actually starting.
Most improved player in the NFL.
Moving on to Dallas and Washington, Dak Prescott had himself a Sunday.
This guy might be second.
The Cowboys quarterback finished 26 of 30, 269 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Dak added another 69 rushing yards on 5 carries. Show me the money, says Dak Prescott somewhere at night when no one really is listening. Cowboys win on the road 31-21, and they move to 2-0. Here's Dak Prescott after another dominant win.
Just a hungry bunch of guys, great athletes that all care for one another, that are coming in, enjoying this time each and every day that we're putting into this offense, we're putting into this team.
What do you say to the people who still doubt whether Dak is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL?
I mean, they don't matter. All that matters is, what we think in this locker room, man. We all support each other, and we know Dak's one of the best quarterbacks in this league. And I mean, they can doubt all they want, and we'll keep proving them wrong.
CC, is that true? Is Dak Prescott right now one of the best quarterbacks in the league?
Well, this is the thing. What does that mean? Does that mean he's in the top 10? Does that mean
how impressive has he been?
I mean, he's been outside Lamar. To me, he's been the second most improved quarterback that we've seen. And the reason why we're not as surprised because he gave us that 8-game window last season that a lot of people were trying to discount. Oh, week number 1. Oh, they're making excuses. Oh, it's the Giants and everything. Okay, week number 2 on the road in Washington. Oh, Washington's not. We can keep making excuses. But the kid has made the type of strides that we want guys to make. What's he doing? Firing the ball down the field. Yes, did they have a good effort from Zeke, and can they win without that? That's what we saw in last week's game. The things that I've seen in 2 weeks are things that are duplicatable. Spreading the ball around. Jarwin as a threat, tight end. 1 catch, over 20 yards, though. Anytime you can start getting that and the other complementary players, that shows me the sign. Amari Cooper didn't have that monster game, and Dak still looked great. You throw the ball 30 times, and the ball's only on the ground 4 times, 26 of 30 in an NFL game, divisional game. I'm very impressed with Dak, not only what he's saying before the games as being the team leader, how he addressed the media after the game. I love it. He is a franchise quarterback, and I'll tell you this because someone in Dallas told me this. He has unusual leadership skills. And we gave him credit. My man Colin is on top of that. We gave him credit for the first 3 years. Now take that with his ability to be able to throw the ball and lead his team. That's what we've seen in the first 2 weeks, Jenna.
See, you mentioned throw the ball 30 times, only 4 incompletions. Yeah, 26 of 30, 270 yards, a 123 rating. That's really, really good. But he was actually far better than that. The game started with 2 3-and-outs and an interception for Dallas. On those 3 drives, he was 4 for 7. The rest of the game, he was Phil Simms in the Super Bowl. He was 22 of 23. That's 96% completions, a near perfect quarterback rating, 11 yards per pass, 3 touchdowns, and what I would say is no mistakes. Dallas, after those first 3 drives, their drives were 7 for 97, touchdown. 11 for 83, touchdown. 9 for 75, touchdown. 11 for 68, critical field goal at the time. 10 for 34, touchdown. And then 6 for 45, taking knees, game over. He was perfect after those first 3 drives. And those first 3 drives, you're right. I'm sitting there watching. I was like, this is why I didn't want to anoint him after the Week 1 game. You're 100% right.
I'm telling you, whenever Nick Wright thinks go the other way.
You can read my mind from Baltimore. Because I said, look, like 3 and out. Then he throws a pick where he's laid across the middle, goes off Cobb's hands, intercepted. Then he's 3 and out again. I'm like, okay, everyone, all that stock everyone bought in Dak, it's about to be sold off a little bit in the second half of this game. The rest of the game, he played perfect.
Right.
And this is the exact blueprint for Dallas, by the way. They were great on 3rd down. They had 11 first downs rushing, 12 passing. Zeke was excellent. Dak spreading the ball around. Old man Witten got in the end zone again with a short little out route to the corner.
The only person he's going to average more yards in is you, Jenna.
Yeah.
I mean,
but he's averaging 1 touchdown a game. He's being the red zone threat.
I don't care.
And so, I mean, this was the exact blueprint for the Dallas Cowboys to be the best version of themselves. And it started with Dak, and then Zeke got going. And by the way, we didn't even mention, Dak also had a nice little 40-yard run where he looked to be hunting down Josh Norman, who talked a little trash before the game. Dak was sensational for the 2nd straight week.
2 weeks, 2 wins. Zeke's in the lineup, healthy. Dak is playing great.
Bad news for them, though.
Coming up.
They got Miami next week.
Oh, that's going to be tough. We got to start talking about maybe thinking about the division and whether the Eagles are still the favorites in that division. Coming up, can anyone slow down Tom Brady and the Patriots offense? That's next on First Things First, because it wasn't Miami. They didn't slow down.
No.
Back here, First Things First, joined by head coach Eric Mangini, former head coach. You can always be a head coach.
Good to see you, Coach. How are you?
Nice to see you.
It's good to be here.
Got a lot to talk about today.
We do.
Start with the New England Patriots. They traveled to Miami to take on a JV team known as the Dolphins. Antonio Brown making his Patriots debut. Didn't take long to start clicking with Tom Brady. AB finished with a team-high 4 catches, a team-high 56 yards, and a team-friendly touchdown. Patriots embarrassing the Dolphins 43-0 to improve to 2-0. Here's Josh Gordon on his newest teammate, AB.
He's got a great football mind, football IQ. Guys that are football smart, just pick it up. You know, some faster than others. He's one of those guys that's gifted in that area. He can come in here and was able to adapt on the fly, and he's still learning, as we all are. But you know, it just goes to show how much he really wants to be a part of this offense, how much he really wants to be here and contribute, and how fast he did it. It was great to see him make that progress.
Coach, you knew Antonio Brown wasn't going to get the full load in that offense Week 1, but what were your first impressions of what you saw yesterday?
Well, they gave him a nice little package that was very easy to execute.
Yep.
Ran a speed out against off coverage. He ran a hitch against off coverage. He ran an inside fade against press man. They're all reasonable routes.
Yep.
And they're all routes that he's going to win on a consistent basis. The inside fade, I know there's some discussion as to whether it's pass interference or not, but those types of plays that he can make in press coverage, it dramatically changes this offense. If Josh Gordon and Antonio Brown can stay with the Patriots and part of this offense, they're going to be really, really difficult to beat by anybody, because now you put Edelman inside, you've got the backs coming out of the backfield.
Now you're sounding like me, Coach.
Just,
I told Nick they can wrap up the AFC. They can forget that. They're going to be 14-2 at worst, Coach.
They have not had firepower like that with Josh Gordon and Antonio Brown on the outside. I can't think of a time where they've had talent like that available on the perimeter. And then all the things that they can do inside with the backs and Edelman, where do you want to push the coverage? Who do you want to take away? And it's really going to be a function of, can this last? Can Josh stay a part of the program and stay consistent and overcome his challenges, and where does this saga play out? But the fact that they were able to get him in, get him involved, give him some production.
Keep him out of the headlines.
Well, that's probably the least surprising part of it. You go to New England, you're out of the headlines. Like, you get that there's nothing beneficial about bringing extra attention and distractions and all the other stuff.
Up to and including breaking the league rules. because he was supposed to be available after the game and wasn't, but they've decided,
They got a little rotation now. They're going to do Josh Gordon, throw him out there at you. Antonio's off. Then the next week they're going to Josh will be off, and then Antonio will speak.
Right. Antonio has not spoken at all since he's been with the team. But as an added bonus,
in the grand scheme of things, though, not doing that interview versus anything that could have come from doing the interview, it was
it's a calculated decision that they say whatever the fine is, we'll take it. It's worth it. Listen, as an added bonus, the last time the Patriots allowed a touchdown was in the AFC Championship game. So that helps too. They've outscored their opponents from the Super Bowl, first 2 weeks of the year, 89-6. This year, it's 76-3. So the defense is playing as well as it ever has under Coach Belichick from when you were there to now. And the offense, your point on the firepower, is elite. I want to set Josh Gordon aside for a moment on Antonio, because you and I texted very briefly right when it happened, because when Antonio was sabotaging his way out of Oakland, everyone was down on him, you guys had a great line about you win with character, not characters. And he goes to New England. I'm curious if you think it will last, if you think he will do what he needs to do to be on this team at the end of the year, and they have that firepower that you're talking about.
Everybody who walks through that door makes a decision. There's no trickery. You're not dressing the situation up. You make a decision. Do you want to be part of this program? And if you want to be part of this program, you need to act a certain way, and you need to commit to the things that they do. And then the locker room is built with guys that have a long history in the program, and you've got the greatest player that's ever played, who is coachable, who is an extreme supporter of what's being done.
Not complaining. When they go out in the cold, Tom Brady's not complaining. When it's talking about money around the locker room, Tom Brady's not complaining. When the team runs, New England runs more than anyone in the NFL. They're the best conditioned team. They run in the offseason, they run in training camp, and they run during the season. And those are coaches right. Every single day you have to sign up for this is how we're going to do things. They got the shortest lunch break of any team, and they work harder. It is football from the time you step in until the time you go home. Now, can he be consistent? Because New England will be consistent. If he continues to learn, if he continues to do all the right things, they will get him in the offense, and he will look great. He'll have great support, because the one thing about New England is their offensive line. And having the wide receivers with Josh and having AB, it's going to help cover up for the weakness that they have with that unit, with the number of injuries that they suffered. But this will work. AB, last week decided to do things the right way. This week he's going to have the same opportunity. No one's going to be patting him on the back. Hey, good game, buddy. Oh, you know something this week? Take a couple sessions off. No, he's going to have to do the same thing over and over and over again. And that is really the New England way, the consistency from a day-to-day basis, Coach.
And you also get the all-hands-on-deck approach. He shows up, and Tom Brady's tutoring. Tom Brady's helping him. Julian Edelman's helping him. Everybody's trying to make him successful. And you feel that when you're there. The goal is just to win. And if I need to help you, if I need to spend extra time with you, then I'm happy to do that, because I want you to be productive. I want you to be part of this. You hear so much about AB's work ethic. Let's see how good his work ethic is, because there's a bunch of dudes in that locker room with tremendous work ethic.
It's different when you're working on your own. You got a trainer that you've hired and everything, and you're working with him, compared to someone telling you, this is your schedule, this is your life, this is what we're going to do. It's a different mentality.
And there's the mentality with the players that I'm sure has carried over, that was there, once we started establishing the culture of, hey, I got here at 5:30 this morning and lifted and hydrated. What time did you get here? I studied this. What did you do? So
there's peer pressure in a good form.
It's a positive peer pressure, and there isn't an acceptance of you taking away from the group goal.
That despite the fact that Antonio Brown is used to being the star on a team, and we know there are no stars really when it comes to the Patriots. But yesterday, Tom Brady spread the ball around. No one had more than 60 yards. Is he going to be okay moving through the season when he's not going to have all the receptions and all the yardage that he's used to and that he wants?
Well, we've never seen him in that environment since he's been a star. He was in that environment his first year and a half in Pittsburgh, and really since then, he's been a guy he had that really bizarre NFL NFL record streak of 5 catches, 50 yards for over, like, I think it was 3 seasons consecutively. It meant a lot to him. The Steelers famously one game, almost risked a win to keep that streak alive. Antonio's going to have to be a drastically different person in a million different ways for this to work. Maybe he can do it. I'm still skeptical that he all of a sudden is going to go through a transformation by walking through that door.
Yep, I saw it with Randy Moss. I told you guys he's going to do it. They're going to be okay. And the reason why also Tom Brady's buying into anyone Bill signs, but he's a combination of his 2 favorite receivers outside of Gronk. He loved Gronk. We know he liked throwing to Gronk, especially down the middle and down the seams. But Deion Branch, let's not forget him. Remember how much Tom Brady liked him? That's how AB is in and out of his break. So he simulates him, and as far as the deep threat and the threat on the defense, Randy Moss. So he's a combination in New England of Deion Branch and the Randy Moss, 2 of the best receivers Tom's ever had.
I remember when Corey Dillon came in, and there's so much talk about Corey Dillon prior to him getting there, and he was incredible. And I was talking to Corey on the way out to practice one day about the expectation versus the reality. And he talked about how refreshing it was to not have to be the star, to not have to carry the load, to be able to focus on football. So there is something liberating about that, and guys embrace it.
I disagree with you as far as AB not being a star. Oh, he will be a star. He will get single coverage. They will utilize his skill against the defense. We will see a version of AB and be like, yeah, that's a Pro Bowl player. He'll have 90 catches. He'll have 1,200 yards. And he'll have 10 touchdowns.
And it's going to be, it's Bill, when he looks at players like that, after you have to deal with trying to stop someone that special for so long, to get an opportunity to get him in your building, it's incredible.
Don't forget, they have that receiving core now and a run game, which we haven't even talked about yet. What are they going to be? We're going to the Super Bowl already?
14-2,
easily.
Which I agree with, actually.
Yeah.
Coming up, will Drew Brees' injury derail the Saints' season? Next on First.
Oh, they're going to be the 1 seed.
I was going to be sarcastic and say, well, you agree
I picked
with
them
it,
1 seed before the year.
Back here with Coach Mangini, we are going viral. So check out this crazy play from yesterday. Juju Smith-Schuster tackled by his hand. You ever see anything like this?
The strength on this by KJ Wright. He never lets go. I mean, that is. The
music's great.
And I also don't know. Could Juju have let go? Was this one of those you get your hand stuck in the vending machine, can't get it out because you won't let go of the Coke situation?
Oh,
like you just don't even think to let go? Because it looks like he has a grip on it too.
But it's pulled back, so he's got very little strength. He's not going to be able to drive it back
But why
out.
can't he let go, is what I'm saying if you're Juju. He's like this. If you just straighten your fingers, look at the still image.
Yeah, his shoulder was pretty far back. He probably wasn't thinking about
unless he's really got his fingers
releasing his fingers at that point, yeah.
Never seen a tackle like that. I liked it, KJ Wright. Great win by Seattle. One of me and Mangini's teams this year. Good pick.
I thought for sure you were going to grab his hand. I didn't know what that was.
I didn't know where he was going.
I didn't pull him.
Grab your hand.
Not that kind of party, Nick.
Awkward on
Not that kind of party.
All right, to the Saints-Rams game now, where Drew Brees' hand quickly became the big story. Speaking of, Brees had to leave the game after his throwing hand was hit by Aaron Donald. Didn't look like a big hit. It did take a big toll. Brees reportedly saw a hand specialist after the loss. Turns out he has some ligament issues in his thumb that will cause him to miss some game time. Coach, how devastating could this be for the Saints?
This could be the end for the Saints. And here's a guy who hasn't missed any time really over the course of his career outside of the one injury that he had a long time ago. He's missed. No,
since he's been with the Saints,
he's missed no play time, right?
Well, he sat out 2 games because they had this 1 seed clinched,
right?
And he missed another game and a half due to injury.
Yeah,
in a dozen years.
It is incredible the durability that he's had, and now you're in a situation where you've got such reps built up between the head coach and Drew Brees, and they don't have to discuss a lot of things when they game plan. You don't have to discuss a lot of things on the sideline in terms of making adjustments because you've got years and years of experience and reps built up, and now you transfer that to Teddy Bridgewater, who hasn't played any significant amount of time since 2015, and he had the 1 game last season. It's a totally dramatically different landscape than what they've been facing, what they've had the security of for years and years and years. This changes everything if he's hurt long term.
Listen, we've talked about going into the year, the Saints, they retained Teddy, they paid Teddy top of the market backup quarterback money because they like him. And when you look at the landscape, I mean, tonight on Monday Night Football, Trevor Siemian's going to be starting. And I actually look at him as above average backup quarterback. So it shows you what the market for backup quarterbacks in this league is. There's not many you have any faith in whatsoever. I do have some faith in Teddy Bridgewater. But so much of what the Saints do is totally reliant on Drew. Sean Payton is one of clearly the best coaches in football, but he has no experience as a head coach calling games, coaching games without Drew Brees as his quarterback. Brees actually has a season of experience without Sean Payton even before San Diego Drew Brees because he was suspended for a year, was the coach. And when you have New Orleans, who had their big concern offensively before the year and last season was, do we have a real number two? When you go to a backup quarterback, how much is the defensive game plan going to be? Take away Michael Thomas and see if Teddy can get to second and third reads when he doesn't have, not that Drew's got the strongest arm in the world, but he doesn't have the arm of Drew Brees, obviously doesn't have the mind of Drew Brees, the talent of Drew Brees. And so how will the Saints, which have to be an offensive-dominated team, even if they have an improved defense, how will they win? What do you got to go? How many games do you have to win while Drew's out? If he's out 6 weeks, 4-2 if you want to stay alive for the division, 5-1 if you want to stay alive for the number 1 overall seed, as they had last season. So, I mean, even if it's just 2 weeks, it's at Seattle and home for Dallas the next 2 weeks. You start 1-3, you can make the playoffs. But when the Saints have had success in the playoffs, it's because it's gone through New Orleans, and an injury like this can take that off the board immediately.
There's 2 play callers I believe are head and shoulders above the rest of the NFL, and that's Sean Payton and that's Andy Reid. You could see last week Tyreek Hill gets hurt. Wow, how's their deep passing game going to suffer in Kansas City? Well, not only have they recruited the right type of people to play in the system, but Andy Reid's calling the plays. Now, we know we got Nick Wright. He's going to give Patty Mahomes a lot of credit. But, man, Andy Reid, he puts a hell of a game plan in front of Patty Mahomes that ability that are able to see it. Sean Payton, just like Sean McVay last year. People talk about, Cooper Kupp. It's Jared Goff. He lost his best friend. Well, where's the coach? Where's the baby genius at? Let's call some plays now. Sean Payton is going to have to call some plays. He's going to have to earn his money there. I have more faith in Teddy, but I'm just going to tell you, a lot of it's because I like the guy. I've been knowing him since he was in high school. He was at Miami Northwestern. He was a great leader, got drafted by the Vikings after I thought his overall evaluations out of colleges, people didn't give him a fair shake. So I like Teddy. I have a little more optimism than Teddy, but I'm concerned about Teddy's fastball. You could see him in yesterday's game. Teddy's never had a big arm. And his anticipation, his leadership, he's a great guy to be around. Those are the things, how he led Minnesota to a playoffs. But, man, we're talking about 3-4 years ago. That's ancient history, coach, in the NFL. So, for me, it's a lot of this going to depend on Sean Payton because they don't have Mark Ingram anymore. Yep. They don't have a change of pace. They can't bang the ball into the line of scrimmage anymore with Kamara as their featured running back. So, this is going to be tough. And as Nick says, man, it can get late early. Man, they got a tough schedule.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Coach.
And one of the things that's so difficult with dealing with New Orleans is the volume. It's shifting. It's motioning. It's multiple personnel groups. It's the ability for them to go in and out of no huddle. It's his ability to see what the defense is doing with a pre-snap read and be able to get the ball to the right place. Then he can move around and make plays with his feet and extend plays. All those things help make you a great play caller. And for him to have to adjust to a different, not just a different person, but how much volume can he handle? How much of the offense can they really run? How much can it really look like what it's looked like for so long?
Right. And, Coach, when you're in those situations, you know you've been familiar with it. You can make adjustments on the sideline, pull up something that you did a couple years ago against the team. How will they be able to do that in the game? Will Sean take as much risk with Teddy that he could take with Drew Brees? Him and Drew Brees, they got volume on volume on volume of encyclopedia of football information. What do him and Teddy have? They might have a little third-grade kids book. That's about all they got.
A whole encyclopedia of nonverbal communication too, looks and things like that you can't have without being around each other for 15
Interestingly
years.
enough, Saints one of 5 teams who are going to go with backups this week. Saints, Colts, Jaguars, Steelers, and the Jets Monday night. So they're all going to have to go to that. All right, little deja vu for the Saints once again in this game against the Rams as they were on the wrong side of a missed call. So Jared Goff appears to fumble, leading to a Cam Jordan score on an 89-yard fumble return. But the refs blow the play dead and call it an incompletion. The play is reviewed, it's ruled a fumble, but since the whistle was blown, the Saints gained possession at the spot of the recovery, negating the go-ahead touchdown. Needless to say, Cam Jordan was not happy.
I mean, I didn't even hear the whistle. I grabbed the ball 15, 20 yards down, and allegedly a whistle was blown. Clearly, I mean, a whistle was blown. Where normally you let the play happen. Any referee usually tells you you let the play happen, and then you go back and review the play.
Nice little subtle dig. Why does this keep happening to the Saints, Coach?
I don't know. I mean, you walk into any locker room around the NFL yesterday, and you're going to find 10 guys who are mad about the calls. Derek Carr's mad because he didn't get he got offensive pass interference on a slant, and he can't believe it. And John Gruden can't believe it. He's never had an offensive pass interference called in a slant.
Never happened.
It's never happened in the history of the NFL, and the officials are horrible. There's bad calls every week.
Broncos very mad about passing or roughing the passer.
Broncos are mad. Yeah. You know, take your pick of what locker room you want to go into, and somebody's mad about a call that happened, and it's just part of the game. They're human beings, and there are things in place to try to get calls right. The good thing is, with replay, they were able to get the ball. Historically, before we had that,
yes, that's true. Good point.
You wouldn't even have had that.
No.
So, they've corrected a lot of problems. Is it a perfect system? No, because it's called by imperfect human beings, and there's always going to be disagreements. The idea that this is some sort of officiating conspiracy against the Saints, it's just like enough.
Listen,
let's move on.
Of
please.
course, well, hold on. So I said on Friday that it's time because Drew Brees was asked about and talked about the call in the NFC Championship game. I said on Friday, after this game, it's time for the Saints to move on from the NFC Championship game.
Now it's time?
Well,
now?
Okay, at the very least.
How about after it happened in the championship game and go play the overtime?
Fair enough. But I don't blame them for not being over something that happened 12 hours ago. Literally, something that happened 12 hours ago in regards to this play. But here is my biggest gripe with this play. And, of course, it's not a conspiracy, and it's just a very unhappy coincidence. It's another call when these two teams are playing each other that goes for the Rams against the Saints. Because it's an imperfect game called by imperfect people, because it's so fast. And the referees tell us they are told and taught and coached to err on the side of let the play go, and then we can review it.
But that is recent, though, Nick. It's hard for a ref to be reffing for 30 years, and they're blowing the whistle in action, and then all of a sudden now, the last year, they said, hey, guys, we want you. It's a fundamental process for him to blow his whistle.
Agreed. See, you're right. But we have asked, and we have made. The players adjust. You've been hitting one way for 20 years, your whole life playing football. Guess what? Rules change, you have to adjust. And it is not too much to ask the officials on that play, as they have been asked, if it is close, let it go. The first time you can hear the whistle on the broadcast, Cam Jordan is clear of everyone at the 35-yard line. Now, maybe it's blown before, someone else blew a whistle before, and you just don't hear it on the broadcast. The players on the field, none of them reacted like they heard a whistle. Maybe it was crowd noise.
We never hear the whistle.
Okay, fair enough. And I don't know what it's like to be there in that moment.
Trust.
So I don't know what you're hearing. But to me, the other problem is this wasn't that close. It wasn't like that, oh, my God, I can't, on replay, super slow-mo, in real time watching the game, Coach. Did you think that was a fumble?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks except the guy who's officiating the game. And, yeah, we've asked players to adjust, but every single week, players get called because they're still used to the way that they used to do things. And it takes time for new ways of doing things to be completely adapted, and it's still never going to be perfect.
One of the things with the players, the players have an ability to adjust because they haven't been playing that way for 20 years. Guys haven't been taking guys' heads off for 20 years. You look at Earl Thomas. Earl's been playing 10 years in the league. How many more years of football has he been playing? Before you could generate that type of speed, you didn't even know to take a guy's head off. So the players, it's an easier adjustment. It's more of see what you hit. All right? They didn't want you ducking your head. So a player, keep your head up, see what you're hitting compared to a referee in real time blowing your whistle. The adjustment is totally different. And the skill set of the players is a lot higher than what the referees are. So I expect the players to make the adjustment. Players still complain, and they're still complaining about that. It was a bad call. There's no conspiracy against the Saints because the Saints, the Minneapolis Miracle was not a bad call. All right? If the kid makes the play, they go to the Super Bowl. And if they go to the next game, which in turn they might go to the Super Bowl. That was a better matchup. But now, last year in the playoffs, that play we had never seen before. Correct. But we can't try to compare that play to this play that Coach and I have been a part of them a lot of times going against us that we've seen. It's a regular play in the league. An inadvertent whistle stops play. It's hard to get this right. I know people, we watch TV, we see the red zone, we think these referees are machines. They're not, but they are actually doing a pretty good job. And as Coach made a great point, at least they got the ball. I remember this play happening, and the offense had the ball. They keep playing, and that frustration is greater than what the Saints should have.
All right, we're going to take a little break. Coach, we'll see you a little bit later on the show. Coming up, breaking news on Big Ben's injured elbow. That's next on First Things First. We'll get to Big Ben's injury in a second. But first, Lions, Chargers, Mike Williams laying out here for a big 47-yard catch.
One of the few highlights for the Chargers yesterday. This is a loss that could haunt them throughout the year. More kicking woes for them, but Mike Williams having a good bounce.
That traveling
back year.
east, man, playing that 10 a.m. game for a West Coast team is difficult.
All right, Alabama, South Carolina. Najee Harris catching the pass, shoves one defender out of the way, hurdles another, and then breaks the last tackle. Watch it all play out. Boom.
This is what a five-star running back looks like.
Where's he been, see?
Oh, on the bench, sitting behind another 4 or 5 star.
Yeah.
A guy getting ready for the NFL.
All right, finally, here
Josh
we go.
Jacobs at the bench, too.
Mississippi State.
Yep.
Kansas State.
Oh,
freshman
no.
quarterback Garrett Schrader.
Great win by Kansas State, winning outright as 7-point dogs.
I mean,
I
mean,
what do you think it was, Carl Lewis, man? You can try and jump 21 feet in the air. He was 7 yards
Carl
behind
Lewis was a long jump, bro.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, this dude was trying to go up with his head.
Trying to dive, a high jump combo.
That's one of the dumbest quarterbacks I've ever seen, okay? That was a dumb move.
Stresses me out. On to the Seahawks and Steelers, and a tough night for Ben Roethlisberger. He had to leave the game with a right elbow injury. He would not return. Ben's scheduled for his MRI later today, and there will reportedly be a decision on whether he needs surgery or not, something Big Ben obviously is hoping to avoid. See how quickly could this season get away from the Steelers?
Well, for one, let's talk about Ben. If he has a ligament damage, he's torn a ligament, and he's got to have surgery, a guy at his age, is this the end of Ben? That would be one question. So we'll get some information on that. It's hard to recover, not only from that type of ligament damage to your throwing elbow. Like, I'm very concerned. But as far as the season, with Ben being absent, where's this team going to get some leadership from? Juju Smith-Schuster, I talked about it a couple weeks. Is he their best offensive player outside of Ben? At 22 years old, I was concerned about him leading the wide receiving group. Lost his wide receiving coach a couple weeks ago. Now, how does he continue to move on? No A.B. there, no L. Bell there. So you ain't got no leadership on that offense. Could this go south in a hurry? Absolutely. This is how your season can be derailed. All right? You have expectations coming into the season. To me, they don't have great talent. They have mediocre talent for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They don't have a defense. To me, their coaches went in the press conferences, oh, we're foaming at the mouth. They didn't look like they was foaming at the mouth to me at the beginning of the game, but, you know, what do I know about football? But to me, the Pittsburgh Steelers, if we look at it now in 3 months at the end of the season, you can put the Pittsburgh Steelers as which team was one of the most disappointing. And it's going to be because of injuries, the absence of L. Bell, the absence of A.B., and them not being able to produce the type of offenses that we are used to the Pittsburgh Steelers putting out there on the field.
All right, when you talk about Ben's future, I thought our producer, Dave Ermacher, before the show brought something up that I hadn't even considered, I hadn't remembered. which is the greatest quarterback in Pittsburgh Steelers history, Terry Bradshaw, in 1982 in a playoff game, tore an elbow ligament. Played one more game the rest of his career.
Were you born?
Played one more. No, I was not.
Oh, okay. Okay. I was
I
forgot it happened as if he was home watching it.
Well, I wasn't around for the Civil War, but I know who won that too. So the point is that Terry did not look like he was done until he was done. Okay? And so for Big Ben, when you are talking about a quarterback in year 16, if he does have to have season-ending surgery, that big contract he just got notwithstanding, yeah, I don't think he will then retire. But will we ever see Big Ben coming off a year where he led the NFL in passing yards as the great Big Ben ever again? You would have, the smart money would be on no, even if you're rooting for him. Now, the Steelers for this season, I was bearish on the Steelers before this. Now that you've seen their offense, even with Big Ben, first 6 quarters of the season, get nothing going. The touchdown they had with Big Ben in the game before he got hurt came after should have been a defensive score, set them up on a very short field. In fact, 2 of their touchdowns came after a turnover set them up inside Seattle's 15-yard line. They got good pressure on Russell Wilson the first quarter and a half of that football game, and then couldn't thereafter. Seattle ran the ball well. Russell was exceptional. And then you do look at, let's say it's best case scenario for Ben. He doesn't have surgery. He's just out a few weeks. Okay, they're at San Francisco this coming week. That's an East Coast team going to the West Coast, a 2-0 San Francisco team. Then they have Cincinnati, but then it's Baltimore, Chargers before their bye. That easily can be a 1-4, 1-5 start. And so, yeah, Pittsburgh was, I think, in a lot of trouble before their best player on their team got hurt. Now their best and most important player on the team is potentially staring at a season-ending surgery on a scary injury because it's a non-contact injury. Now, we usually associate those with your legs, but a non-contact injury to his arm, it's what you see with pitchers in baseball. Right. And you hear Tommy John surgery. And so, yeah, everything right now is concerning for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Mike Tomlin had to go to the well after the Patriots lost to rally his guys in that locker room and to let the world know that was just an aberration. Actually, now we're ready. We're, as you said, foaming at the mouth. How does he start to right this ship? What can he do just to try to get these guys back into this season if you are going to lose Ben Roethlisberger?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. But I'm just going to tell you, I've had enough of the press conferences. I want to see some real adjustments. You can only talk so much to me. I need to see the team, what you're doing, how you're changing defensively. Are you going to run the ball? And now they might be without James Conner also. So Mike Tomlin, man, he's one of the best in the league at that mic. But to me, it's about what your team does on Sundays. And the team hasn't been good, and the defense has not been good for a long time. And that's not because of injury. It's a lack of personnel. They do not have cover people. They do not have enough rush people, and they do not have a typical Pittsburgh Steeler type linebacking core. So for me, Mike can say whatever he wants to say. All right? You've had L. Bell go out of that locker room and A.B. go out of that locker room, and now Big Ben, you can't tell me no lie. Denny Green used to tell me, hey, guys, I'm going to try not to lie to you, but every once in a while, I'll try to slip a fast one on you. That's what Mike Tomlin's going to have to do. He's going to have to do some of his best coaching because this team has the least amount of talent of any team that he's coached in Pittsburgh.
Another starting quarterback after Drew Brees out after yesterday's play. All right, take a break. Coming up, more on Big Ben later in the show. But how dangerous is the Patriots offense with AB and Brady already starting to click? That's next on First Things First. Drew Brees had to leave the Saints-Rams game after he hit his throwing hand on Aaron Donald's hand during a pass rush. Brees reportedly saw a hand specialist after the loss, and it turns out he's got a ligament issue in his thumb that will cause him to miss some game time. CeCe, how devastating could this be for the Saints?
Well, I think with the ligament damage, this is probably the most popular of all injuries to quarterbacks, either hitting someone's hand or the typical one is landing on someone's helmet. And they get ligament damage around that thumb, and to me, typically 6 to 8 weeks. And the problem is he can't grip the ball. So he can't put any velocity on the ball, and he can't stay on top of the ball. So to me, this is a hard one right here.
Yeah.
This is tough given the continuity that him and Sean Payton have.
That video right there is the scariest of it. When after the injury, you see him come over, try to just pick up a football, and it slips out of his hands. That's when you realize the potential severity of it. And I do not think the Saints can survive a month and a half without Drew Brees. Even as much as I like Teddy, as much as I'm rooting for Teddy. And maybe I'll be wrong, and this will be a great opportunity for Teddy, who's going to be a free agent next season, to go prove to everyone he is the quarterback he was 4 years ago. But for the Saints, so much of it is the hive mind between Peyton and Brees that they've never been without. At least Peyton's never been without Brees. Now he's going to be without it maybe a month, maybe 2 months. Brutal for New Orleans.
All right, we'll see what Teddy Bridgewater can do in his absence. Cardinals and Ravens, and Lamar Jackson did not disappoint. Some good numbers here. Finished 24 of 37, 272 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also ran for 120 yards. Ravens get the win. They improved to 2-0 on the young season. CC, you were there. You were on the call. How good did Lamar look in person?
Oh, he looked amazing. Jenna, when you and Steph, when you go to the butcher asks you, how you like your meat cut? You want it cut thin? You can put a lot of guys in the box. We're going to throw it over the top like Miami. You want your butcher say you like a 1/4 inch? You like a little more girth to your meat there, Jenna, Steph? So, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to pound the ball with Mark Ingram and several other running backs, and Lamar is going to run it. So each week, based on what the defense is going to do, they feel very comfortable that they can either throw it or they can run it, which is it's a drastic improvement from what we saw in that playoff game.
Absolutely, when it was throw only in case of emergency. See, you said through 2 weeks Lamar's the league's most improved player.
Yeah, absolutely.
No doubt. Through 2 weeks, he also might be the league's most valuable player. If such award existed at the 1/8 mark of the season. You know I love this, see. 250 passing yards, 120 rushing yards. That has happened how many times in NFL history?
0.
1 of 1 as of
Oh,
last
yeah,
night.
besides my man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly right.
I'm off a little tick,
You're fine. I got
need
you,
some
bro.
sleep, man.
I
I didn't
got
go for
you,
my
man.
morning walk this morning.
No
I woke
problem.
up feeling sick. Like,
we got you, man. Don't worry about it.
You should see my butcher. Antonio Brown made his Patriots debut, and he didn't take long to start clicking with Tom Brady. Finished with 4 catches, 56 yards, and a touchdown. Patriots just embarrassing the Dolphins 43-0 to improve to 2-0 on the season. Here's Josh Gordon on his newest teammate, Antonio Brown.
He's got a great football mind, football IQ. Guys that are football smart, just pick it up. You know, some faster than others. He's one of those guys that's gifted in that area. He can come in here and was able to adapt on the fly, and he's still learning, as we all are. But, you know, it just goes to show how much he really wants to be a part of this offense, how much he really wants to be here and contribute, and how fast he did it. It was great to see him make that progress.
Look, he's made a good impression on his teammates. He's clearly now made a good impression on the fans after what he did yesterday. What were your
Patriots fans, they'll cheer for anybody, but go ahead.
What were your first impressions of AB in that Pats offense?
I mean, this is what I thought. I told you guys, they're going to give him a small little playbook. They're going to put him in the game. I was shocked he didn't return punts, too, because that's another little Belichick thing. He might be saving that since he was playing against the JV, Jenna, and the Dolphins. Wait till they play a real NFL team. Put him back there.
You have to wait about 2 months.
But they are going to allow him to be a Patriot as long as he decides to do things the right way. And it's on a day-to-day basis. When Belichick said that, it's day-to-day as far as being where you're supposed to be, being on time, and doing the type of things that the Patriots do. And they don't practice like anyone else. How they go about their daily schedule's not like anyone else. They have less rest time. They have a shorter lunch than anyone else. They have more meetings than anyone else. And they run in preseason, they run during the regular season, and they run in the postseason. They practice in the cold. So there's a number of things he's going to have to continue to adjust. But there will be no sacred cows. He won't get no type of special treatment. So I'm not surprised. They had a little package. 4 out of the first 5 plays or so, they were trying to come to him, trying to build up some confidence, trying to build up some chemistry. They were able to do that. All the routes that he ran were very, very simple routes. He ran a stop, he ran a dig, he ran a takeoff, and he ran a quick out. Those are all the things that he did. That's not the Patriots offense. They gave him enough so that him and Tom can build some chemistry. Now they'll move on to week number 2 and attack it the same way they did week number 1. Making no promises to him, but if he comes and he's there and he learns the stuff, then they'll put him in a situation where we'll see his ability, and that's what we were able to see in the game yesterday.
And the Patriots, aside from the growing injury report on that offensive line, which is concerning, by the way, Isaiah Wynn went out yesterday their left tackle, and we'll see what the prognosis on him is. But this is as complete of a Patriot team, even before they added the Antonio Brown, as we had seen in a very long time. I know the Dolphins are terrible, but this was the biggest road shutout in the NFL in 30 years. There have been a lot of terrible teams. None of them been shut out at home in 30 years the way the Miami Dolphins just did. The Patriots have not allowed a touchdown since the AFC Championship game. That's 12 quarters of football where they have outscored their opponent 89-6.
89-6.
13-3 in the Super Bowl, 33-3 in week 1, and 43-bagel in week 2. And so, obviously, as long as Antonio is there, he adds a dynamic element to that team. Nobody has doubted how good he is. Even at his lowest moments in Oakland, the reason Gruden was holding on to dear hope he can just make it to the season is because he will produce. He will be effective. Once the game starts, there's maybe 2 guys in the whole league better than him. Maybe. The question is, will he make it to where the games actually count, which is the end of the season? That's where Cris has more confidence than me. But as long as he's there, this is as dynamic of a team on both sides of the ball as we have in the NFL, and the results are showing.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.